Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kuntarkis. My name is Michael Yon, and this episode is New Biology. So we start off with some casual talking before we get into the topic. So here's my first question. Do you, I have no particular major reason for asking this apart from curiosity. Sometimes when we're conversing, are you also, as you're speaking to me over the phone, are you also like aware of me just to different degrees sometimes, whether it's my attention or interest or interest in what you're saying or this or that? Do you have?
Yes.
Yeah. How much is that a part of your experience when we're talking?
Sometimes if I'm doing a consultation, and I think you would probably agree with it if you look back on it, when I was doing consultations a lot of the times I used to pick up a lot of the bits before a person even said anything, and I would answer them very quickly, and it would shock some people. They say, "How did you know what I was about to say?" That's exactly what I was about to say or ask. And I said, I just have a unique ability that I can actually feel your vibration, your energies. It's like, when was it? I'm just trying to work out the day, but it's when Michelle was out with me in the garage, and JC was on his bike, and he was having one of those nice natural solid ice block type things, in the tube, and I was talking, and then suddenly I was sitting in this chair, and I closed my eyes, and I felt my chest pulling really strong, and I let go, and I instantly came out so calmly out of my body, which I haven't experienced very often. The calmness. There was no pull like an elastic band or a sponge or something like that. I just literally lifted out of my body, spun around about 3 feet, maybe 4 feet off the ground, and I looked at myself and I said, "Peace." That's what I said to myself, peace. And I noticed my facial expressions changed. It's like it wasn't, it looked like me, but it wasn't me. My jawline was more square. And the funny thing about that is I looked over at my darling and said, I come up really close to her face, and I touched my nose with hers, and she literally put her hand up and ran it across her nose like she thought it was a fly on there. And I said, "I love you." That's what I said to her. "My heart to your heart always, my darling." And I looked at little JC, and I come up and I just put both hands on his face. And you know what he said to me? He said, "I think someone just touched me on my face." And I said, "Oh." And I pulled right back. I turned around, looked at the beautiful sky, and I could see all the living energy just buzzing with life by the trillions. And I said, "That's how I like to see it." And I just felt myself being drawn back into my body, and I opened up, and I was very calm about the whole thing. And my darling said to me, she said, "You're out of your body, weren't you?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I thought you were." She said, "Your whole facial expression changed. You had a very square jawline. I said, "That's interesting." So she was aware, which was really, really good.
That's beautiful, Kuntarkis. So what are we going to talk about today?
I was going to talk about children today, but I'm concerned that because it's such a touchy subject, Michael, my heart would go out so deeply to every single human that has had a child snatched from them. Because I know beyond all things where they go and what happens to them. And I felt if I express that, it's like driving a dagger into their chest, because they are going through so much pain in losing a child. And I'm not talking like, say, one or two people. I'm talking if there's over 8 million children disappearing every year, well, that's a lot of parents who are losing children worldwide. And I don't want to say the wrong word to offend them, because I can sense their pain. I can actually feel it if I allow myself. And it's so heartbreaking to see a mother or a father every moment of their life feeling that pain because they have had their child stolen and more than likely never get them back. And then what happens to them to express all that is devastating to someone that's actually gone through that experience. It's like saying, I went through my own disease of cancer, lung cancer. I didn't tell basically anyone. And I just tolerated my pain, even in a group of people. And they would say, you feel okay? I said, I'm just going through a really bad cold. Or I've had a really hard workout. My muscles are really sore. So I told little white lies. So I didn't tell them that it felt as if 40 daggers were being pushed into my chest at different times, every time I took a small breath. So that's the same thing. The pain of losing a child is beyond imagination. And I'm trying to work out, how do you get the truth, the real truth of what our governments, our elite criminals, and all the perverted pedophiles in what they're doing? How do you get that across to parents worldwide that are living such a horror of pain? And I just cannot find the answer at this time. So I'm not going to talk about it. But what I am going to talk about is the new biology. Do you remember, Michael, when we did that episode on the human biology? And I explained all about the process of what we're going through and what the criminal elites are doing to us and why. Now, the interesting factor is they're trying to create what they call synthetic biology. Okay? That's their physical understanding from a scientific perspective. Here's my perspective, because this is what I know about 11 civilizations on all different planets and spread out, thousands and thousands of light years from each other. And yet they practice something that is very interesting. And the creation of, say, a new biology has a very strong meaning. We could say the new biology is about conscious growth. More than likely, it's about evolution. But it's got to come back to the single individual, or a connection between conscious, individuals, that they have the same understanding or wanting that ability to create a new biology. Now, we create everything with our biology physically. What I'm putting forward is what I experienced 3 nights ago. And when I say I experienced it, have a guess who I experienced it with.
Your father, Yarkis Kardis?
No, but close. The Nipyelins.
Oh, of course, the Nipyelins. I'm so glad to hear about them again.
Okay, well, I'm going to quickly tell you about a little experience I had first, and then I'm going to explain what they were saying to me, okay, about a new biology.
Yeah, Kuntarkis, can we just mention that these Nipyelins, seventh dimensional beings from a planet, a universe, many universes away, have been mentioned in our more kind of previous episodes. So if you're wanting more about them, there are previous episodes with them in it.
Okay. Now, the funny thing is, I came out of my body with ease after being asleep. And I literally just come straight up, spun around, and went out the actual wall. And I went straight up into the universe. And I mean, I traveled so fast. As I was traveling, I said to myself, hang on, they're not here. But I sense them. I sense their energy. I know their energy. And I traveled in exactly the same way with the universes passing me so fast, but this time faster. Well, that's what it felt like. And suddenly I was right at the wall of their universe, which has no planet, by the way. But their universe is beyond comprehension when it comes to size, distance. Their universe is all laid out with, how would you say, it looks like a massive park that is endless, but also has separations within it to separate different parts of that universe. And they have walkways that are so wide and so long, over hills, down. But the funny thing is, when I got to that wall, they were both there smiling at me. And they put their hands out. I took their hands and I just went straight through, very easy this time. And one of them said to me, because I'm just trying to remember their names because I don't want to use the wrong name, so I won't refer to them in their names because their names are so unusual and a little bit difficult to say or repeat. On the episodes, you'll actually hear them. But the one that normally always speaks to me, his name starts with Y. And his energy said to me, I have something that I must show you. And I want your heart to tell me what you think of what I have created. I say, okay. So they took me there. And we were sort of like going over, it looked like we were going over the water and you couldn't see the other side, like our world is round. And then suddenly I could see the top of them. And as we got closer and closer, I said, you created them. Oh my God, I said, you created them. You let it out from your inner being and you manifested it into your world, your dimension. And what they were the 3 waterfalls on Chicani. And they were so beautiful. They looked like the same size. And they were in the distance. And what was behind them was these massive mountains. And it looks like some had snow peaks on them. And they were just, how would you say, all over the place, these mountains. And the waterfalls came up over these massive rocks, like thousands of tons of water flowing. They were separated that looked like about probably 50 feet or maybe, say, 80 feet apart. And the waterfalls were perfectly in alignment. And they came all the way down. You could hear them hit the rocks below. And there was created these beautiful gardens, identical with these most beautiful flowers and bushes that are on Chicani. He took the whole thing. And it was so magnificent. What's even more magnificent, he created a home for me when I visit. And have a guess what home he took without telling me, but it's all good. And he remanifested on actual their universe. And that was the house on Chicani. So when I come there, I'm invited to stay. And I can live in that premises so I feel comfortable. So he recreated that entire house perfectly. It's about 300 feet tall off the ground, identical in color. The inside is exactly the same. And what his creation is, perfect. So that's what he created. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And we had, by the way, we had massive talks. And what we spoke about was what my father, which you were right, you picked up that energy, he spoke to them about a new, how would you say, human biology through conscious awareness. So he suggested that to them so they would suggest that to me. And I already had that suggestion deep within my essence, and they helped bring it out. And what it is, a new biology for humanity. When we begin to grow as a species consciously in our own self-awareness, we become higher in vibration. As we become higher in vibration, we begin to grow deeply within our mind, through our imagination, and our connection to our soul. Once we have that done, we can find a new way of no longer having any form of human disease, no form of monetary system, no form of government, no form of military, no form of police, because it's not needed. Because crime will no longer exist once the elite garbage is removed through vaporization in the time to come. 140 to 180 years, that'll all be gone. And humanity will be able to grow consciously through their own thoughts, their own self-awareness, their own connection from body to spirit, from spirit to mind, from mind to the soul. And that is a big leap in consciousness. When that happens, there is another step, and that's what these seventh dimensional beings actually have become. They found a way through thought consciousness in their own evolution to go beyond the physical. And eventually the physical will become lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, to a point where what is left of your physical essence will just disintegrate as energy. And what you have is a body that you've created just like the seven-dimensional beings. That is the future for human biology to come. Once the planet is purified by getting rid of all the pedophiles, all the things that are perverted, and change our thought consciousness to a higher way of communication. Once that occurs, Michael, we will grow immensely. And our outlook on life will change, because we'll have no more stress. We won't have any more monetary system where greed will exist. It will all be gone. And what will be left is a balanced society where everyone works in harmony, not just for themselves, but their families, as well as the society family. And that's how the balance will come into play in time to come with a new human biology.
Well, with this idea of the human biology, I mean, my understanding of every other planet and every other universe that has conscious beings is they basically head over a long time into this direction anyway, into, for instance, being fifth and sixth and seventh dimensional beings. Is this similar in this case?
It is similar, but humanity doesn't have to reach the seventh dimension. They can actually do it from the fourth dimension into the fifth dimension. That's where the big changes will occur. What these beings have done, they've taken it far beyond any human's comprehension. If they came together with these beings, they would find it very hard to accept their form of understanding, because humanity has never been given, the opportunity to have that knowledge, that understanding. What we have as a society is very basic when it comes to our understanding. We are caught in a third dimensional plateau And we're not going any higher because we don't know how to. And yet we have these elite criminals that are literally impounding us to a point of total domination and control. They want to change us so they can change our synthetic biology to their way of control and domination. Once that occurs, humanity as a species will no longer exist. It can't, because everything has changed. You don't have even human blood, because nanotechnology is changing it all the time.
It's like a parasite or a cancer. That's what
it is a parasite.
This elite garbage is. It's just
yeah. You know, you saw movies back with Star Trek and maybe other forms of movies where they have these little strange looking wormy creatures, you know, looks like a lobster in a way, and they insert it into the ear, or they insert it down the throat, right? Or they cut the stomach and put it inside. And within, say, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so, or even less, suddenly they're no longer in control of their body. This creature takes over, and it literally controls everything, and it makes them do anything they want. They're no longer classed as human. It's like this little creature is so highly intelligent, it takes over everything. Well, synthetic biology is a similar process, just on a different scale. The problem is, these people I heard this one guy say to me, I don't think that's such a bad idea. I wouldn't mind being synthetic biology. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I'd be able to do more things. I said, you wouldn't even know who you were. He said, what do you mean? I said, your blood will no longer be human. So that means all your memory banks will eventually be wiped out. And the only thing left is the data that is within that nanotechnology that will control you through a coding system, through mass computers. And you will basically be a synthetic biology robot. And the look on his face was like, oh, no, that's not possible. I said, it's already happening. I said 75% of the human race basically have had either 2 injections plus booster, and some have had 3 boosters. 22 million have died. Isn't that telling you something, that something's going wrong? But eventually, I said, anyone that's had the shots and the boosters, they will turn into synthetic biology. And if anybody, I said, that's right, I said this too. I said, if anybody is game enough to go to some place where they'll actually do a test, they'll actually see that your blood is no longer human blood, especially if you've been vaccinated for the last 2 years. You're already in the process of change. And they'll also see strange little objects in your blood. That is nanotechnology, self-assembling little robots that take over completely. And he just looked at me and he said, well, he said, all right. He says, nice talking to you. He said, I've got to go. And that would have put a lot of fear into him. But the truth is, Michael, if we don't tell the truth, how is anybody ever going to stop and say, oh my God, is this really happening? It's like a movie. But it's not a movie, it's reality.
So in practicality, those that are feeling, oh gosh, well, these vaxxers, if I've had 1 or 2 or more, what can I do, Kuntarkis? And I think you've mentioned 2 things. One is to don't have any more, because it kind of gets less to some degree, but also like Anne-Maria Mihaela, where she was talking about
exactly,
and working with the actual positive science, medical technology that can actually remove all that's in there. I mean, that's a real positive.
It is a positive. The only problem is, if the government gets a whiff of it, they'll do the same thing they did with ivermectin.
Yeah.
They'll ban it, right? And they'll probably bring up false charges against anyone that's bringing out something. they'll try to stop them. I mean, there are health practitioners over different parts of the world that have had enormous success with ivermectin and other products. And they've literally, helped people become sensible again, getting rid of brain fog and getting them back on track. And they're feeling so much better. But the government now has banned so many things. As soon as they hear about something, that's it. It's like if I really promoted activated charcoal as a cleanser, it attracts metal particles. Well, nanotechnology is nanoparticles. Over a period of time, if done correctly, I believe, this is my opinion only, from what I sense within my own being, and I always listen to my own being before I would listen to anyone. It literally is telling me that it will remove all those things out of your body if you follow a system properly, so you don't become more sick. Because you've got to admit, when you take that stuff, it cleanses, it cleans you out, and it makes you feel lighter, especially if you have, say, one a week, just one a week. You know, a large tablespoon or a tablespoon mixed with a big glass of water and have another glass of water after it. What you'll find within a very short period of time, you begin to feel more clarity. Vision becomes better. Your body starts to feel lighter. The only reason I can say that is because my wife says the same thing and I feel the same thing. And people that I've recommended, they say the same thing. So it definitely works.
I see. Yeah. Excellent. So, and then, I mean, I guess like the bigger advice is, it seems like there's a bit of a theme among the episodes that we've been doing. A lot of them are pointing towards like, gosh, people, we have to at some point stand up if it's not to go worse and worse in this world.
Well, Michael, yeah, we have to, we honestly have to stand up as a species, yeah, as humanity. We need to get off our lazy chair, and I don't mean literally, like some are, yes, but I mean we need to stand up and say this is who we are, and we are no longer going to accept your corruption, your conspiracies. We are the people, we are the power, and we are going to change this because enough is enough. I mean, I read an article on, I think it's by Steve it's actually by Anna Marie. And she actually states in one of these emails in her information about the different things that's happening negatively. And she states that we think that the army is there for us, the people. Well, they're the ones that have been gathering all the information to prevent people from repairing themselves. And they're feeding it out to whoever, like the governments. So they're not working for us. And that, to me, that doesn't make sense because a military is there for the people. And now this is the interesting part. If you have the ability to go into the void and pull out the fragments to say the Second World War, how it all came about, the First World War, how it all came about, you would see the mass conspiracies by all governments, exactly when they were going to enter the war, exactly how they played it, so they made the people think they were doing the right thing for the people. And yet, what's more interesting is, percentage-wise, less soldiers died in the Second World War. More citizens, and I'm talking babies, children, mothers, fathers, they died more so than the soldiers. And that's a little bit funny. And that's what the past from the void shows. And that's scary.
Yeah.
But it's the conspiracy, Michael, that they have tried to push out on people who are complaining about certain things, that they are the conspirators. But they're not. It is the governments. It is the World Health Organization. It is the United Nations, the EDA and the FDP, or whatever they're called. They are the ones that have got together and planned the entire conspiracy, right down to the last nickel. And now it's playing itself out. And we're the pawns. We're accepting it. It's like my son, I said to you I think it was a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, about the chemtrail he saw. And he heard the plane, a massive plane, so high up. But he saw the long one. And in New South Wales, somewhere in New South Wales, I think they call it the Riviera, something like that. I don't know if that's a new suburb of what, but they had this massive chemtrail going across the sky, and they heard a massive plane, like it's got to be, like the old bombers or the big planes. And this was a chemtrail. And this is what is making our children sick. This is what is keeping adults sick. And this is something that governments are denying 100%, but they're not doing anything about it, like against the people. They're just making excuses and they're laughing about it. And yet, it's the truth. Chemtrails have been going on for so long. I mean, who paid, we spoke about this, but let's be honest, who paid $60 million to Disney to go back into the old movies and colour in chemtrails so they can turn around and say, well, look back then, all those years ago, look at that. That looks like a chemtrail, but they're not. They're just natural events. Mm. That's not true. And that's proven, by the way. The guy who actually was going to do it spilt the beans. So it's interesting, isn't it? To make films like they got chemtrails, so they call it natural. Yeah, makes you wonder what really is going on. Well, I trust we explained a little bit about the Nipyelins. I've got to keep saying.
No, isn't it the Nipyelins? Niple? Niple?
Yeah, well, maybe I'm saying it just a little bit because I don't see the word all the time, so I might just say it a little bit confusing. But
I think it's Nipyelins.
Nipyelins. Yeah. Nipyelins. Yeah, so anyway, that explains about how seven-dimensional beings are capable of so much. And that's incredible, Michael, that one of these beings came with me and the other one into the spirit world, saw my building, came to the dome, right, went to Shikani, and was so impressed with what they saw. This one said, may I please do this? And I said, absolutely. And what I saw him do was literally like he put his chest out and his stomach, and I could see this light beaming, vibrating. It was like bluish yellow vibration with white light. And it literally, it's like it absorbed the entire thing within itself. And what's more amazing is when we were there, we floated over and we heard how loud the waterfalls really were. And I just put my hands under it because he said to me, feel it. I put my hands just on the water and the pressure was pushing my hand down, was so strong. I just said, wow, this is reality. This is not just a hologram. This is real. And I'm not sure exactly how he actually did that. But when I look around and I see his house dwellings and the way they live, but in a massive universe with no planet, that is intriguing. That is just mind-blowing. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, no, absolutely. It kind of, when I think about it, I don't know how to imagine exactly what you see, but I kind of think of like paths, just kind of connected by pathways and maybe water and whatever else, where it's just a massive, huge, but like instead of like, you know how when you see, kind of when you see the earth that's dried up and so it's split in spots,
Yes.
kind of, I have that kind of idea where it's like they're all, yeah, they're split away from each other and they're not connected, but they are all connected at the same time. And
They are.
I mean, how many beings in this
How
entire
many
universe?
beings? To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure, but when I went there this time, right, there were lots because he took me around many areas and I saw a lot of beings. It looked like thousands. That's how I saw it. It looked like thousands.
Yeah, because this is a universe with no other planets. This is literally one universe that's like a huge split up of a whole planet.
It's their universe. They created it. And if you look at it, when I think about Kanag being in the fifth dimension, how he created his own castle, right? He was fascinated that I actually created this building in Spirit World. And he's looking forward to coming and having a look. He hasn't seen it yet, but Father has told him about it. And he just looked at Father with that, I'm being horrible, that dumbfounded look. And like saying, are you serious? He created that and he's living on planet Earth. So that just amazed him. So he's already expressed that he'll be coming to me to take him into Spirit World and to show him. But more so, he wants to see the dome. That's what he wants to see, what I've actually done there.
Tell us, what is this dome?
Oh, well, the dome is like 500 feet long, say 300 feet wide, 300 feet tall. It's shaped like a massive egg in a way, but it's how would you say, unescapable, because on the top of it, it has like a shield of light that you cannot see out of. And inside, there are prisoners. And these prisoners come from all different places within the Earth's vibration. And there's some very, very nasty characters that I've actually collected. I got to be honest, I am not yet fully aware of how I have brought them into that dome. But there is one that I have, and I was so concentrating on this one called Bill, and he's the one that did some very. He's actually a pedophile, a child molester. And he passed over by committing suicide because he had cancer 3 or 4 times and he knew he was going to die. And he was concerned that he would end up in jail because of his filthy habits. But anyway, he died and I searched for him for between 2 and 3 months. And I finally found him through the help of others. And I literally came flying past him. And my hand went around the back of his neck and I picked him up. And the look on his face was so horrifying, scared as ever. And he kept saying, who are you? What are you? Who are you? What are you? And I took him and I went through that top ceiling and I put him down there. And I just said to him, enjoy your new home. Actually, I said, enjoy your new rest home. This is eternity for you, for what you have done to innocent children, because those innocent children have to live with your perverted conditioning for the rest of their life, and it's wrong. So this is your justice. I condemn you to eternity unless I choose to change. And that's where they are. And by the way, there's about 119 to 129. I've got to find out the exact count actually in there now, and that's grown.
It's definitely grown, yeah. I mean, when did this? I mean, when did the first one go in there? Like what year was it? This year, last year? Sorry, last year or the year before?
Last year, mate. Late last year.
2023 is when it's
2023, and there was only about 1 or 2, and then it just suddenly went up and up and up. And I think only about a couple of weeks ago, I was under the 100 mark. And now I'm over the 100 mark. But that figure is still rough, between 119 and 129. Right? And there's some pretty shady characters from all around the world who have passed over. And also, who have passed over from being in prison and who have committed the same crime after 25 years or 30 years being in prison, have gone out and done exactly the same thing. And they've passed over, and now that's where they are.
If they weren't there, they could be doing the same thing in spirit world, right?
Yeah, well, they would. And they have been, yes, because they're more free to do it. They don't feel the same restrictions. And that's why I created the dome. I put a lot of energy into that to create it. Because when I manifested that house, that castle, that's, very tall, 287 feet tall. It's got 8 levels. It's beautiful. When I created that in spirit world, it hit me. It just hit me, Michael, to say, create a dome. Just like you got in your book. And I did. And it took me, I think about, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to actually do it because I put so much concentration into it. So there it is. And it will not disintegrate unless I allow it to. People are going to find that very hard to comprehend.
It is, Kuntarkis. That's never been, it has no one, I don't even know if this entire planet ever something like that's happened in spirit world from a person who is literally living at the same time. That's so right. Unique.
You know what I'd like to do? This is my next venture. While I'm still in this human body, I have discovered something within myself that I've developed over many, many earthly years, and it's growing stronger and stronger. And I would love to be able to create my ability to take people who are mass murderers right now and put them there. But I know what will happen. I know if I grabbed them and took them there and I went through spirit world, their body would no longer exist because they would come out of their bodies and their bodies would fall into that third dimensional vibration and they would be dead anyway. So I don't really want to do that. But what I'd like to do is as soon as they pass over, I want to make sure that I'm in tune and ready to go and get them and put them straight in there. Because they will learn, Michael, the harshness of what they've created. And I can say this. I can say it because I'm a great believer in justice. And I'm talking equal justice for the horrendous crimes against humanity. People must feel the balance for what others have done to them or their children or whoever. So they feel a sense of relief that horrible, perverted person is suffering for their crimes. And I said this before, I know, but not going to some pathetic, stupid jail and be looked after for the next 20 years or 30 years or 40 years and still be able to get onto the internets and do all their sickness. So, yeah, or connect with people who will do it for them. And that's even happening today, by the way.
Oh, gosh.
So that's pretty bad. Mm. And on that, mate, I have to say farewell, farewell. Yes.
Kuntarkis, on that note, I thought, I haven't asked you to say something in Sanskrit in quite a while. And even if you aren't to now, I was going to ask, do you know when you're speaking to the Nipyelins whether you are speaking in English, which I'm certain they're capable of, or whether they're speaking in Sanskrit?
Both, Michael. I noticed my last adventure with them, I actually spoke Sanskrit very perfectly. And what's really interesting is, it's something, Michael, that takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of, I suppose, balance and self-growth, especially when it becomes self-awareness. You have to be really balanced to be able to draw out memories of your own past lives. It's not just a click of a finger. Some people might think that. Well, that's not how it works. You've got to be able to be balanced in your own self-awareness, in your own spirituality, which is not a religion of any sort, and be able to connect with the divine that is within yourself. Once you do that and you speak to your own soul, things become very, very easy. And there are times when I've sat on the lounge and Michelle's gone off to do a job, say right down at, say, Tweed Heads, and she's staying away the night. I'll sit there and I'll actually start talking for no reason, Sanskrit, and I'll go on for 10, 15 minutes. And I'll even have a conversation with different beings. I'll feel their presence, their energies. We all have the same abilities within our own memory banks. And within that 4 quadrillion cells of your cellular memory are all your life's experiences. In fact, every single lifetime you've had, even if it's on another planet, it's there. And it's like going into the void and being able to extract all the fragments of a particular era, of a particular lifetime. It's the same thing, just circumstances just are a little different. When it's you personally, it comes to you easier. When you're out in the void and you're trying to find a particular era or particular year of the past or present to find out something specific, that is a little harder, but still achievable. And that's what I find because it's in my book, especially volume 2 of The Dream Assassin.
Very good, Kuntarkis. Can I just ask, if this episode had the main feature being the new human biology, is there anything you'd like to say in closing about the new human biology?
Okay. When it comes to an understanding of who we are, we have to learn to understand death before we understand life, not the other way around. When we begin to understand the death process, we also begin to understand what our next life will be about, and it will make it much easier as we grow consciously. To obtain a new biology in human terms, we have to go through a process that can take many, many, many years. And it's not just one lifetime, it may be several, it may be a dozen. It depends on one's own understanding in the present moment, how we accept things. If we ignore knowledge of the possibilities of change, then we ignore our own evolution and we stay the same in that logical thinking. But when we begin to feel the possibilities of wanting to change, that's where the road begins. And it goes faster and faster and faster. And before we know it, we say, oh my God, I've changed so much from what I was back then. I am so impressed with my own evolution. We start to think what's beyond what we are now. And when we start to tap in to what is beyond, there are no limitations. I don't believe that I'm a limited being. Yes, there are some things that I need to learn, absolutely, and I'll probably never stop learning. But when we start to feel beyond this third dimensional vibration of what does exist, fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional, we start to elevate our own awareness to that level of communication. And that's why the Nipyelins have come to me, because of my thought consciousness in wanting to know, in fact, asking to travel interdimensional. And that's why they came, because I put so much energy into that. I'm not distracted by what is now. So many people are distracted because of stress, of have to pay this, have to pay that, have to do this, have to do that. I need to change my job. I've lost my house. My God, my health is down. So you keep destroying yourself consciously so you don't have to change. So you try and find some really boring balance, which won't ever work. The only way is to accept new growth, new change constantly. By doing that, it doesn't matter if we die in this lifetime or the next lifetime or the next lifetime. We are allowing ourselves to evolve emotionally, physically, spiritually, and making our connection to our mind, to our soul. And we just grow and grow and grow. That is evolution.
Oh, very good, Kuntarkis. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This concludes another episode of Kuntarkis. If you'd like to find out more about Kuntarkis, he has a website which is etcconsciousness.com. There's info there about his books and the other things he can talk about. And maybe if you're interested in having a private consultation with him, which I highly recommend, then you can find out information there, as well as email him at kuntarkis@gmail.com, where you can ask us any questions. And please, if you have feedback for these episodes or suggestions for what you might like to hear about, different topics, etc., any questions and such, we'd love to incorporate that into our episodes. So please email kuntarkis@gmail.com. That's it for now. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Michael Yon, and stay tuned for more.